Amy Turner lived in a small cabin on the edge of Pine Creek Forest. Her life was simple and predictable. She worked as a nurse at the local hospital, taking care of patients and then returning to her peaceful home each evening. She loved the quiet, life away from the busy town. She had chosen this place because the stars shone brighter here without the city lights to dim them, on this particular autumn night. Amy had just finished her dinner and was washing dishes when she heard a strange noise. Outside it was unlike anything she had heard before, not an animal or the wind, but something else entirely, something that made the hairs on her arms stand up. She dried her hands and moved to the window, pushing aside the curtain to peer into the darkness. A flash of blue light illuminated her yard for a brief moment and then vanished. Amy blinked, unsure if she had imagined it. Then came another sound, a soft thud against her front door, followed by what sounded like a moan. Heart racing, Amy grabbed the baseball bat she kept near the door for protection. She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and pulled the door open, ready to defend herself. What she saw made her drop the bat in shock. A woman lay crumpled on her porch, but this was no ordinary woman. Her skin had a faint blue glow to it, almost like it contained stars beneath the surface. Her face was human-like, but with features that were just slightly wrong. Her eyes were larger than a human should be, and completely silver without pupils. Her nose was small and straight, and her lips had a purple tint to them. She wore what looked like armor, but it was damaged, showing a wound in her side that leaked a shimmering purple fluid. The strange woman looked up at Amy, her silver eyes filled with what could only be described as fear and pain. She reached out a hand with long, thin fingers. "Help me, please," she said, her voice musical and strange. She spoke English, but with an accent Amy had never heard before, as if the words were being filtered through water. Amy stood frozen for a moment. She should call someone, the police or the hospital or maybe even the military. But as a nurse, her first instinct was always to help those in pain. And despite the woman's clearly non-human appearance, there was something in those silver eyes that Amy recognized suffering, making a decision that would change her life forever. Amy knelt down and helped the alien woman to her feet. "I need to get you inside," she whispered, leading the wounded stranger through the door and closing it firmly behind them. The alien woman was lighter than she looked and leaned heavily against Amy as they made their way to the couch. Amy helped her lie down, then quickly gathered her first aid kit from the bathroom. She had treated all kinds of wounds before, but never on an alien. She would have to improvise. "What happened to you?" Amy asked as she carefully examined the wound. It looked like a burn, or perhaps a cut from a very hot blade. "The edges were cauterized, attacked," she replied weakly. "Ship crashed in forest." Her words were halting, as if speaking caused her pain. "My name." Her hand touched her chest. She made a sound that Amy's human ears couldn't quite capture, a musical note that seemed to shift and change. Amy smiled gently. "I can't say that," she admitted. "But I can call you." She thought for a moment, looking at the woman's glowing skin that reminded her of stars. "How about Lyra?" "It's a constellation." The alien woman seemed to consider. This then nodded slowly. "Lyra." She repeated the word carefully. "Yes," as Amy cleaned the wound with antiseptic. Lyra winced, but remained still. She seemed fascinated by Amy, watching her work with those large silver eyes. "You are not afraid?" Lyra said it. Wasn't a question, but a statement of surprise. Amy laughed softly. "I'm terrified, actually. But you're hurt and I'm a nurse. Helping people is what I do, even if those people are from..." She hesitated, not knowing how to finish the sentence. "Not from Earth, Lyra," supplied I am Vereen. "We have watched your world for many cycles." Amy applied a bandage to the wound, though she wasn't sure if human medical supplies would help an alien. She had so many questions, but Lyra looked exhausted, her silver eyes drooping. "You need to rest," Amy said, pulling a blanket over her strange guest. "We can talk more when you're stronger." Lyra nodded gratefully. "Others will come looking," she murmured as her eyes closed. "Not my people, not friends." Amy felt a chill at these words, but pushed her fear aside. She made sure Lyra was comfortable, then went to the window looking out at the dark forest. That flash of blue light had been Lyra's ship crashing. What else might be out there in the darkness for the next few days? Amy called in sick, to work something she rarely did. She couldn't leave Lyra alone, and she certainly couldn't tell anyone about her. The alien woman grew stronger quickly, her biology apparently more resilient than humans. She explained more about herself and her people. The Varine were a peaceful species from a planet with twin moons. They had advanced technology but valued art and beauty above all else. They had been observing Earth for decades, fascinated by humans and their contradictory nature, their capacity for both terrible violence and extraordinary kindness. Lyra had been sent as a scout to determine if Earth would be a suitable ally. Her ship had been attacked by another alien race, the Drovak, who had been hunting the Varine across the galaxy. She had barely escaped with her life. "They consider us weak," Lyra explained as she sat at Amy's kitchen table drinking honey straight from the jar, which she had discovered she loved. "They destroy what they cannot control." Amy listened with growing amazement. As Lyra described her world, a place of crystal cities and flowing architecture, where music and mathematics were considered the same discipline, the Varine had been peacefully exploring space until the Drovak began their campaign against them when not discussing her people. Lyra marveled at human inventions, many she considered primitive but charming. She was fascinated by simple things like Amy's wind chimes and the texture of cotton fabric. Television confused her, and she found most human, food bland except for sweet things. Amy kept Lyra hidden, knowing instinctively that revealing her existence could be dangerous, but she needed help. After a week, she called the one person she trusted completely, Megan Lawson, her best friend since childhood who taught biology at the local university. Megan arrived at the cabin, her eyes wide with disbelief when Amy explained the situation. But the moment she saw Lyra, all doubt vanished, replaced by scientific curiosity. Megan helped analyze Lyra's biology, taking small samples with the alien's permission. She was astounded by the advanced cellular structure. "It's incredible," she told Amy while Lyra rested. "Her cells can regenerate at a rate we can only dream of. And the bioluminescence seems to be a natural feature, not a result of technology." Amy nodded, watching Lyra sleep. Her silver eyes were closed, her chest rising and falling with each breath. Despite her alien features, there was something undeniably beautiful about her. Amy had grown fond of her strange guest during their time together. "Lyra says others are looking for her," Amy whispered. "Bad ones." Megan frowned. "What do we do?" "For now we keep her safe," Amy said, "until she can contact her people for rescue." What they didn't know was that the Drovak had already tracked Lyra's ship to Earth. A scout was approaching the forest that very night, drawn by the faint energy signature of Lyra's damaged suit. The peaceful days at the cabin were about to end, and Amy's courage would soon be tested, in ways she could never have imagined. Amy woke with a start, her heart pounding in her chest. Something had pulled her from sleep, a noise she couldn't quite place. She glanced at the clock beside her bed. The red numbers showed it was just past 3 in the morning. She listened carefully, and heard it again. A soft clicking sound coming from outside. She slipped out of bed and moved to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to peek out. The forest behind her cabin was dark, but she could see something moving between the trees, a shadow darker than the night itself. It moved in a way that was not human, too fluid, too precise. "Lyra," Amy whispered urgently, rushing to the living room where the alien woman had been sleeping on the couch. But the couch was empty. The blankets pushed. Aside, a soft blue glow from the kitchen drew Amy's attention. She found Lyra there, standing perfectly still. Her damaged suit was partially repaired, the strange symbols across its surface now glowing faintly. She was looking out the kitchen window, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. "It's here," she said without turning. "The Drovak hunter," I felt it approach. Amy moved to stand beside her, peering into the darkness. "What does it want? To kill me?" Lyra replied, her musical voice flat, and then to signal others of its kind. "The Drovak consider your species primitive but potentially useful. They would not destroy your world but enslave it." Amy felt a chill run down her spine. "How do we stop it?" "We fight." Lyra turned to face her. The hunters are strong but not invincible. My suit is damaged but still functional. She touched a symbol on her arm and the suit seemed to ripple, adapting to her movements. If I can reach my ship, there are weapons I can use. Amy shook her head. It's too dangerous. You haven't fully recovered, and the forest is dark. We could get lost. Lyra smiled, her purple lips curving slightly. Your concern is touching, but I have excellent night vision, and the hunter will find us here eventually. Better to choose the battlefield than wait for attack. Before Amy could argue further, the kitchen window shattered. Glass exploded inward as a massive form crashed through. The creature that landed on the kitchen floor was like nothing Amy had ever seen. Its skin was rough like tree, bark but darker with a reddish tint. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness and it had no visible mouth, just a series of slits where a mouth should be. It was tall, at least 7 feet, with long limbs that ended in sharp claws. Lyra pushed Amy behind her and faced the creature. Her suit glowed brighter, the symbols pulsing with blue light. She spoke in a language Amy couldn't understand, harsh and clicking. The Drovak responded in the same language, its voice like stones grinding together. It took a step forward, its claws leaving marks on Amy's kitchen floor. Run, Lyra shouted at Amy. I will hold it off. Find Megan. Get to safety. But Amy didn't run. She couldn't leave Lyra to face this creature alone. Instead, she grabbed a knife from the kitchen counter and stood her ground beside the alien woman who had become her friend. The Drovak seemed surprised by this, its red eyes shifting between the two of them. It made a sound that might have been laughter, then lunged forward with frightening speed. Lyra met its attack, her movements fluid and graceful despite her injury. Her hands glowed with blue energy as she struck at the creature, but the Drovak was strong. Its claws tore at her suit, reopening her wound. The purple fluid began to seep through Amy, watched in horror as Lyra fought the Drovak warrior. They moved so quickly she could barely follow the battle. They crashed through the kitchen, knocking over chairs and smashing dishes. The Drovak seemed to be winning, its superior strength giving it the advantage without thinking. Amy gripped the kitchen knife and rushed forward. She plunged the blade into the creature's back where she hoped vital organs might be. The Drovak howled a terrible sound that made Amy's ears ring. It turned toward her, its red eyes burning with rage. It reached for her with those terrible claws. Lyra used the distraction to grab a device from her partially repaired suit. A beam of intense light shot forth, catching the Drovak in the chest. The creature froze, then began to crumble, its body turning to dust before Amy's eyes. The silence that followed was deafening. Amy stood shakily still, gripping the knife. Her kitchen was destroyed, furniture, broken dishes shattered, and a pile of alien dust on her floor. You, Lyra said, staring at Amy with those silver eyes. You risked your life for me, Amy. Let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I couldn't let you fight alone. Lyra stepped forward and took Amy's hands in her own. The alien's skin was warm and seemed to pulse with light. That is why the Vareen believe humans might be the key to our survival, she said softly. Your species' capacity for courage is unmatched in the galaxy. They cleaned up as best they could. Amy sweeping up the alien dust, while Lyra used a device from her suit to repair the broken window. It wasn't perfect, but it would keep out the cold night air. More will come, Lyra said as they finished. The hunter would have sent a signal before attacking. My people may have received it as, well, but the Drovak are closer. Their ships are faster. We need to get to your ship, Amy said, gathering supplies into a backpack. Can it be repaired? Lyra shook her head. No, but it contains a more powerful beacon. I can call for rescue. The Vareen will send a ship, but it will take time the Drovak will use to find us. By morning they were ready. Amy had called Megan, explaining the situation as best she could. Her friend agreed to meet them at a clearing near where Lyra's ship had crashed. They set out at dawn, Amy following Lyra through the forest. The alien woman moved with certainty despite never having walked these woods before. She seemed to have some way of sensing the direction to her ship. Amy struggled to keep up, climbing over fallen logs and pushing through undergrowth. The forest was beautiful in the early morning light, dew sparkling on leaves and spider webs. Birds called to each other, and squirrels watched curiously as the human and alien passed by. In any other circumstance, Amy would have enjoyed the hike. They reached the crash site around midday. A long gouge in the earth showed where Lyra's ship had come down. The ship itself was smaller than Amy had expected, about the size of a small car. Its silver surface was damaged, but still beautiful, somehow curved and elegant like a sculpture. Megan was waiting for them, her eyes widening at the sight of the ship, and Lyra in the daylight. "Wow," she breathed. "It's real, you're." Real. Lyra nodded, a gesture she had learned from Amy. "I'm real," she confirmed. "And we need your help together." They approached the ship. Lyra placed her hand on its surface and a panel slid open. She reached inside and removed several devices, explaining their functions as she did so. One was a more powerful beacon, another was a scanner to detect approaching Drovak, and a third was a weapon similar to the one she had used in Amy's kitchen. The three of them set up a small camp nearby. Lyra activated the beacon, sending a signal to her people. Megan examined the alien technology with fascination, asking questions that Lyra answered patiently. Amy kept watch, feeling strangely protective of both her friends. As the sun began to set, Lyra grew quiet, her silver eyes focused on the darkening sky. "The beacon has been acknowledged," she said finally. "My people have received the signal. They will send a rescue ship. How long will it take?" Amy asked. "3 of your days, perhaps." "4," Lyra replied. "The Drovak will arrive sooner. We need to be ready." "Then," Megan said, picking up one of the weapons Lyra had shown them how to use, "you need to teach us how to fight them." Lyra looked at the two human women with what might have been pride. "You already know how to fight," she said. "You have courage, that is the most important weapon against the Drovak. They do not understand it. They cannot comprehend why a being would risk itself for another. That is their weakness." As night fell, they took turns keeping watch. The forest seemed different now to Amy's shadows. That once seemed peaceful now held potential threats. Sounds that would have been simply nature now carried possible danger. Lyra's scanner remained quiet for now, but they all knew it was only a matter of time. Amy took the first watch, sitting at the edge of their camp looking out into the darkness. She thought about how much her life had changed in just a few days. From a quiet nurse living alone to someone involved in what could only be described as an interstellar conflict. It seemed unreal. And yet the weight of the weapon in her lap was very real indeed. She looked over at Lyra, who appeared to be meditating, her skin glowing softly in the darkness. The alien woman had changed her too. Amy realized she had shown her that the universe was vast and filled with wonders and dangers, but mostly wonders. The morning brought with it a heavy fog that settled over the forest like a blanket. Visibility was poor, which made Amy nervous, but Lyra seemed almost relieved by it. "The fog will mask our heat signatures," she explained as they ate a simple breakfast of energy bars and fruit that Megan had brought. The Drovak rely heavily on thermal detection. Megan, who had taken the last watch, looked exhausted, but excited. The biology professor had been documenting everything, taking notes and samples when Lyra allowed it. She had even managed to collect some of the Drovak remains, storing the dust in a small container. "I still can't believe this is happening," she said, wrapping her hands around a mug of instant coffee. "This changes everything. Everything we know about life in the universe." Lyra nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the morning light. "My people have known about Earth for many cycles. We have debated making contact. The decision has been difficult. Your species is young, still developing, sometimes volatile, but sometimes extraordinary." Amy added, thinking of all the human achievements she had tried to explain to Lyra. "Art, music, medicine, yes." Lyra agreed, looking at Amy with something like affection. "You are capable of great beauty and great destruction. Sometimes both at once. It is fascinating." Their moment was interrupted by a beeping sound from Lyra's scanner. She grabbed it quickly, her expression turning serious. "Drovak ships," she said. "2 of them." in orbit around your planet. They are scanning for my signature. How long do we have? Megan asked, setting down her coffee. They will send hunters first. Lyra replied. At least 5, perhaps more. They will triangulate my position from the hunters' signals, then the ships will land, and the hunters, Amy prompted. When will they arrive? Soon today. The fog will slow them, but not for long. We must prepare. They spent the morning setting traps around the clearing, using materials from Lyra's ship and what they could find in the forest. Lyra explained that the Drovak, while physically strong, were not especially creative. They followed patterns and protocols. Unpredictability would be the humans' advantage. By midday, the fog had begun to lift, revealing the beautiful forest around them. Birds sang and insects buzzed, as if nothing unusual was happening, as if the fate of 2 species wasn't being determined in this small clearing. Amy took a moment to sit beside Lyra's ship, looking up at the patches of blue sky visible through the trees. She tried to imagine Lyra's world with its twin moons and crystal cities. What would it be like to see such a place? Would she ever get the chance? Lyra joined her, sitting gracefully beside her. The alien woman had removed her damaged suit, revealing a simple garment underneath that seemed to shimmer with the same light as her skin. She was beautiful in a strange way. Her proportions just slightly wrong for a human, but perfect for what she was. Your world is very loud, Amy said, smiling. The birds, the insects, even the wind, in the leaves, all making noise all the time. Lyra tilted her head, listening. My world is quieter, she said after a moment. The Vereen communicate often through light patterns. Our cities glow with conversations. Our music is both sound and color. She looked at Amy curiously. Does that seem strange to you? Amy shook her head. Not strange, just different. I would like to see it someday. Perhaps you will, Lyra said, her voice soft. The Vereen Council will want to speak with humans who have helped one of their own. Who better than the human who saved me? Amy felt her heart skip a beat. Was Lyra suggesting what she thought she was? Before she could ask, the scanner beeped again, more urgently this time. They are here, Lyra said, standing quickly, her body tensing. 5 hunters approaching from different directions. They are coordinating their attack. Megan joined them, her face pale but determined. She had been a surprise to Amy, showing courage. Amy hadn't known her friend possessed the biology professor, had armed herself with one of Lyra's weapons and looked ready to use it. What do we do? She asked. We spring our traps, Lyra replied, and we fight. The first hunter appeared at the edge of the clearing, its bark-like skin making it blend with the trees. Its red eyes scanned the area, fixing on Lyra. It stepped forward, triggering the first trap. A net made of metal cables from Lyra's ship fell from the trees, entangling the creature. It struggled, thrashing against the cables, but they held Lyra raised, her weapon, and fired. The hunter dissolved into dust, just as the first one had one down, Amy said. Her voice sounded calmer than she felt. 4 to go. Megan added, gripping her weapon tighter. They came quickly after that. 2 hunters appearing simultaneously. From opposite sides of the clearing, Lyra engaged one, while Amy and Megan focused on the other. The human's weapon was less powerful than Lyra's, requiring multiple shots to be effective. The hunter reached Megan before she could finish it off, knocking her to the ground. Amy rushed forward, stabbing at the creature with a metal rod from Lyra's ship. The Drovak turned its attention to her, giving Megan the chance to fire again. This time, the hunter fell crumbling to dust. Lyra had dispatched her opponent as well, but she was breathing hard, purple blood seeping from her partially healed wound. The 4th hunter caught her by surprise, attacking from above, dropping from the trees with frightening speed. It pinned Lyra to the ground, its claws digging into her shoulders. Amy and Megan both fired their weapons, but the hunter moved too quickly, dodging the shots. It spoke to Lyra in that harsh, clicking language, its voice filled with what sounded like triumph. Lyra responded weakly, her silver eyes finding Amy's for a brief moment. There was something in that look, a message Amy couldn't quite understand, but she knew Lyra needed help desperately. Without thinking, Amy rushed forward, tackling the Drovak. She knew it was foolish. The creature was far stronger than her, but she couldn't stand by and watch Lyra die. The impact knocked the hunter off balance, giving Lyra enough space to reach a small device on her wrist. She activated it, and a pulse of blue energy spread outward. The hunter froze. Caught in the energy field, Lyra struggled to her feet and finished it with her weapon. The creature turned to dust, leaving Amy lying on the ground, stunned but unharmed. "One more," Megan said, helping Amy to her feet. "Where is the fifth hunter?" Lyra checked her scanner. Her face showed concern. "It is not approaching," she said. "It is circling, staying just out of range." "It is calling the ships," Lyra added after a moment. "They will be here soon. We must activate the beacon again. Send a stronger signal to my people." She limped to her ship, Amy and Megan following closely. The alien woman reached inside the damaged craft and adjusted something. The ship began to hum, a soft vibration that Amy could feel through her feet. "Now we wait," Lyra said, sitting heavily on the ground. "We have perhaps 2 hours before the Drovak ships arrive. If my people are close enough, they will receive the amplified signal and change course." Amy knelt beside Lyra, examining her wounds. They were serious, the purple fluid leaking. "Steadily, we need to treat these," she said, falling back on her medical training. She used supplies from her backpack to clean and bandage the wounds as best she could. Megan kept watch, her eyes scanning the trees for any sign of the final hunter. She held her weapon ready. Though not a violent person by nature, the professor had adapted quickly to their situation, her scientific curiosity now tempered with a fighter's alertness. As Amy worked, Lyra spoke softly, telling her more about the Vereen, their history, their art, their philosophy. They had evolved on a world with limited resources, which had taught them cooperation rather than competition. They valued beauty, seeing it as the highest expression of intelligence. Their technology, while advanced, was designed to enhance life, not to dominate or destroy. The Drovak were their opposite. In many ways, evolved from apex predators on a harsh world, they saw the universe as a hunting ground. Resources were to be claimed, territory marked, and defended. Strength was their highest value, and they had no concept of cooperation outside their own species. "They have never encountered a species like humans before," Lyra said, as Amy finished bandaging her wounds. "Your adaptability confuses them. Your willingness to help a stranger from the stars does not fit their understanding of the universe." The hours passed slowly, Amy, Megan, and Lyra taking turns to rest and keep watch. The fifth hunter remained at the edge of their scanner range, observing, but not attacking. The waiting was almost worse than the fighting, the tension building with each passing minute. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing. Amy found herself counting stars as they appeared one by one, wondering which one might be Lyra's home. She thought about her own home, the cabin that now seemed so far away. Would she ever return to it? Would she want to? After seeing what lay beyond Earth as darkness fell completely, Lyra's scanner began to beep rapidly. She checked it, her silver eyes widening. "The Drovak ship," she said. "They are entering the atmosphere. They will be here in minutes." Almost simultaneously, another alarm sounded, this one with a musical tone rather than a harsh beep. Lyra looked up, hope clear on her alien face. "My people," she said. "They have received the signal. They are coming." But what?" Megan asked, gripping her weapon tighter. "The Drovak will arrive first." Lyra finished. "We must hold them off just a little longer. Just until the Vereen ship can reach us." Amy looked at Megan, then at Lyra. The three of them against Drovak ships. The odds seemed impossible. But they had come this far together. They would face whatever came next. "The same way together," Amy said, taking Lyra's hand in one, of hers and Megan's in the other. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The night sky erupted with light as the first Drovak ship broke through the clouds. It was larger than Amy had expected, angular and predatory looking, with sharp edges and a dark metallic surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. It had hovered above the clearing, the trees bending beneath the force of its engines. Lyra pulled Amy and Megan toward her damaged ship, crouching behind it for cover. A second Drovak vessel appeared alongside the first, the two ships positioning themselves on opposite sides of the clearing. They will try to capture us alive. Lyra explained, her voice barely audible over the roar of the engines. The Varine for information, the humans for study. You are a new species to them. They will want specimens. Amy felt her blood run cold at the word specimens. But there was no time for fear. The first ship was landing now, a ramp extending from its underside. Tall figures emerged, their bark-like skin catching the moonlight. 6 of them, each carrying weapons, far more sophisticated than the hunters had used. Megan gripped her weapon so tightly her knuckles were white. These are soldiers. She asked, worse. Lyra replied, elites. Hunters are scouts. These are warriors. The Drovak elites spread out surrounding the clearing. Their movements were coordinated and efficient. One remained at the ship's ramp, clearly the commander. It spoke loudly in that harsh, clicking language. Lyra listened, her expression grim. They are ordering me to surrender. She translated. They say they will make your deaths quick if I comply. She looked at Amy and Megan, her silver eyes sad. I am sorry I have brought this upon you. Don't apologize. Amy said, we chose to help you. We would do it again. The commander spoke again, more urgently. This time he's growing impatient. Lyra said, they will attack soon. How long until your people arrive? Megan asked, checking her weapon minutes. Lyra replied, but we may not have minutes. As if to emphasize her point, the Drovak elites began to advance weapons. They moved slowly, clearly confident in their superior numbers and firepower. The commander remained by the ship watching. We need a distraction. Amy said, thinking quickly. If we can hold them off just a little longer. She looked at Lyra's ship. The beacon is still active, right? Lyra nodded. Yes, it continues to signal my people. What if we overload it? Amy suggested. Make it shine brighter. Maybe it would confuse them. Give us a few more minutes. Lyra considered this. Her silver eyes narrowed. It would destroy the beacon, she said, but it might create a pulse of energy that would temporarily blind them. She reached inside her ship, adjusting something. The humming grew louder, the pitch rising. The Drovak elites hesitated, sensing something was happening. The commander barked an order and they began to move faster, closing in on the 3 women. Now Lyra shouted, hitting a final control. The beacon exploded in a flash of blue-white light so bright Amy had to shield her eyes, even though Lyra had warned them to look away. The Drovak elites screamed, their sensitive eyes more vulnerable to the blast than human ones. They stumbled back, clawing at their faces. Use the weapons, Amy called to Megan. Take out as many as you can. The 2 humans fired at the disoriented elites. 2 fell immediately, turning to dust like the hunters had. The others recovered more quickly, taking cover behind trees and returning fire. Energy bolts struck the ground near them. Scorching the earth, Lyra fired her own weapon with precision, taking down a 3rd elite. But the commander had remained far enough away to avoid the worst of the light blast. It shouted new orders, and the remaining elites began a more coordinated attack. Amy felt something burn across her arm as an energy bolt grazed her. The pain was intense, but she kept firing. Her shot missed and the elite advanced on her, its red eyes fixed on her with murderous intent. It raised its weapon. A blur of motion caught Amy by surprise as Megan tackled, the elite knocking its aim off. The shot went wild, hitting a tree instead. The professor and the alien crashed to the ground, struggling. Megan was no match for the elite's strength, but her unexpected attack had given Amy time to adjust her aim. She fired again, this time hitting the elite square in the chest. It crumbled to dust beneath Megan. 4 down, 2 to go, including the commander. Megan said, breathing hard, a cut on her forehead bleeding freely, but their weapons were beginning to fail, the power cells depleting. The remaining elite and the commander seemed aware of this. They advanced more boldly now, firing constantly, forcing the 3 women to stay behind the limited cover of Lyra's damaged ship. We cannot win this way. Lyra said, her voice strained from pain and exertion. The commander has called for reinforcements from the 2nd ship. More elites are coming. Amy looked up at the night sky, searching desperately for any sign of the Varine ship. The stars looked the same as always, beautiful but distant and cold. She felt a moment of despair, then she saw it. A new light moving across the sky. Not a star, but a ship. Its design completely different from the Drovak vessels. Smooth and elegant with curves that seemed to flow like water glowing with soft blue light. The Varine Lyra whispered following Amy's gaze, "They have come." The Drovak commander saw it too. He shouted to the remaining elite who turned his weapon toward the sky, firing uselessly at the approaching Varine ship. The vessel was too high too fast. The shots dissipated harmlessly in the air. The Varine ship descended rapidly, positioning itself between the women and the Drovak ships. Its presence seemed to fill the clearing with a soft blue light. A beam shot from its underside striking the Drovak commander. The elite leader disintegrated instantly. Another beam hit the remaining elite with the same result. Then both Drovak ships exploded simultaneously, bright flashes that lit up the forest like day. The sound came a moment later, a deep boom that Amy felt in her chest. The shockwave knocked all three women to the ground. When Amy looked up again, the Varine ship was landing in the clearing, its smooth surface gleaming in the moonlight. A door opened. In its side, and three figures emerged. They were similar to Lyra, tall with the same glowing skin and silver eyes. They wore suits like Lyra's, but undamaged and more elaborate. Their movements were graceful, almost like dancing as they approached Lyra, stood shakily leaning on Amy for support. The lead Varine stepped forward and spoke in that musical language Amy had heard Lyra use. Lyra responded, her voice filled with emotion. Then, to Amy's surprise, the Varine turned to her and spoke in perfect English. "I am Captain Alara of the Varine scout ship Luminar," she said, her voice like chimes in the wind. "We thank you for saving our sister. You have shown extraordinary courage." Amy helped Lyra forward, Megan following close behind. It seemed only right, to be polite even to aliens. "We did what anyone would do," she said, though she knew that wasn't entirely true. "Not everyone would help a wounded alien. You are modest," Captain Alara said. Her silver eyes studied Amy with interest. "That quality, too, we find admirable. The Varine have been watching Earth for some time, but this is our first direct contact. You and your friend have made history this day." Two more Varine approached carrying what looked like medical equipment. They began to treat Lyra, speaking to her softly. Amy watched, concerned for her friend. "She will recover," Captain Alara assured her, noticing Amy's worry. "Our medical technology is quite advanced. The wounds will heal completely. Thank you," Amy said, feeling suddenly overwhelmed by everything that had happened. "What happens now?" The captain gestured to her ship. "The Drovak know of Earth now," she said. "They will send more ships, more hunters. They consider your world a threat now because you helped one of us. The Varine Council must be informed of this development. We will need representatives from Earth to speak with them." "Representatives," Amy repeated, looking at Megan, who seemed equally stunned. "You mean us, who better?" Captain Alara said. "Those who have already proven they can work alongside the Varine against a common enemy. Those who have shown courage and compassion, the very qualities that make humanity unique in the galaxy." A younger Varine approached and spoke urgently to the captain. She nodded, then turned back to Amy and Megan Moore. "Drovak ships have been detected approaching your solar system," she said. "We must leave soon if we are to avoid them. Will you come with us? Return with us to our world. Speak to our council. Help us forge an alliance that might protect both our peoples." Itai was an impossible choice. Leave Earth, everything and everyone they knew, to travel to an alien world, or stay behind knowing the Drovak would return, knowing Earth was now part of something larger, a conflict that spanned the stars. Amy looked at Megan. The professor nodded slightly, her eyes filled with the same mix of fear and excitement that Amy felt. She thought of her quiet cabin, her job at the hospital, her simple life. It all seemed so small now compared to what lay before her. Captain Alara seemed to sense her thoughts. "The choice is difficult." "I understand," she said softly, "but know that we can return you to Earth after you have spoken with the Council. This need not be permanent unless you wish it to be." That made the decision easier. Amy took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. "We will come with you," she said. "We will speak to your counsel." Lyra, who had been treated by the Varine medics, approached them now. Her wounds were bandaged with a material that seemed to glow, faintly. She looked better already. More color in her face, her silver eyes brighter. "You are certain?" she asked, looking from Amy to Megan. "The journey will be long. Your world will seem very far away." Megan smiled a bit shakily, but with determination. "Nothing in my biology textbooks prepared me for this," she said. "But I'm not missing the chance to study an alien civilization firsthand." The interior of the Varine ship was nothing like Amy had imagined. It was not the cold, metallic environment of science fiction movies, but a warm living space. The walls seemed almost organic, curved and flowing with soft blue light emanating from. Within them, the floor was firm but slightly yielding beneath their feet, and the air smelled faintly of something like cinnamon and ocean. Captain Alara led them through corridors that widened and narrowed in a pattern that seemed random at first, but soon revealed itself as intentional. The ship was designed to mimic natural spaces, caves, and forest paths, rather than the rigid structure humans might have built. Other Varine crew members watched them with curious silver eyes as they passed. Some nodded in greeting. Others simply stared. Amy felt like an exhibit in a zoo, but not in an unpleasant way. The aliens seemed genuinely interested rather than judgmental. The captain showed them to a room that would be theirs during the journey. It was spacious with 2 comfortable-looking beds, or what Amy assumed were beds. They were more like shallow pools filled with a softly glowing gel-like substance. "These will conform to your bodies," Ilara explained. "They provide rest far more efficiently than your solid sleeping platforms." Megan approached one, cautiously touching the surface with her fingertips. It rippled slightly, then stilled. "Fascinating," she murmured, her scientific curiosity overcoming her hesitation. "The journey to the Varine homeworld will take approximately 5 of your Earth days," Ilara continued. "This room will be your private space. Lyra will serve as your guide and translator, though as you have noticed, we have studied your languages." "How is that possible?" Amy asked. "Many of our scientists believe we are alone in the universe, or at least that no one has reached Earth." The captain made a musical sound that might have been laughter. "We have been observing Earth for over 100 of your years," she said. "We have satellites, disguised as space debris, monitoring your broadcasts and communications. We find your species fascinating, your art, your music, your capacity for both great violence and great compassion. You are unique in the galaxy." "What about the Drovak?" Megan asked. "Will they follow us?" "They will try," Alara acknowledged. "But our ships are faster and we have ways to conceal our path through space." She touched a panel on the wall and a window appeared, showing Earth growing smaller as they ascended. The blue and green planet seemed so peaceful from this distance, so unaware of the galactic conflict it had just joined. "I have matters to attend to," the captain said. "You will be informed when we reach faster than light travel. Lyra will remain with you to answer your questions and help you adjust." She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, then left the room. Lyra stayed, her silver eyes watching Amy and Megan with concern. "Are you well?" she asked. "Both of you. The transition to space can be difficult for species not accustomed to it." Amy realized she did feel strange. A slight dizziness, a floating sensation, but nothing too uncomfortable. Okay," she said. "Just trying to process everything. That down there," she pointed to the shrinking Earth, "is my home. And now, leaving it." Megan was at the window, her face filled with wonder. "We are in space," she said softly. "Actually in space. Looking at Earth from a spaceship." Her scientific demeanor cracked slightly, revealing the pure joy beneath. "I never thought I would see this." Lyra joined her at the window. "Your world is beautiful," she said, "one of the most diverse we have encountered." The Varine believe that diversity leads to strength. It is why we think an alliance with humans could benefit both our species. Ship hummed around them, a soft vibration that was almost soothing. Amy sat on one of the gel beds, finding it surprisingly comfortable. It molded to her body, supporting her perfectly. She felt exhausted, suddenly the adrenaline of the past days crashing. "Now that they were safe, you should rest," Lyra said. noticing Amy's fatigue. Your bodies need time to recover. The ship will alert us before the jump to faster-than-light travel. Megan reluctantly left the window and sat on the other bed. The professor looked tired too, but her eyes still shone with excitement. I have so many questions, she said to Lyra. About your people, your world, your biology, your technology. Lyra smiled, her purple lips curving gently. And I will answer them, she promised. But first, rest, the journey has just begun. Amy didn't remember falling asleep, but she woke to a gentle chime. The room had darkened slightly, and Lyra was sitting cross-legged on the floor between the two beds. Her skin glowed softly, providing enough light to see. We are preparing for faster-than-light travel, Lyra explained as Amy sat up. Megan was already awake, looking nervous but eager. The ship suggests first-time travelers be lying down for the transition. They both returned to their gel beds and waited. Amy felt tense, not knowing what to expect. Would it hurt? Would they feel the impossible speed? A voice spoke in the musical language of the Varine, then repeated in English. Faster-than-light transition, in 30 seconds. Please remain. Calm. Lyra reached out, taking one of Amy's hands and one of Megan's. It is perfectly safe, she assured them, but the first time can be disorienting. The ship began to hum more intensely. The light in the room pulsed once, twice, and then Amy felt a strange sensation, as if her body was being gently stretched in all directions at once. Colors she had never seen before flashed at the edges of her vision. There was a sound like 1,000 voices singing a single perfect note. Then everything snapped back to normal. The hum of the ship quieted. The light stabilized. Transition complete, the voice announced. We are now traveling at 20 times light speed. Estimated arrival at Varine Prime in 4 days and 6 hours. That was it? Amy thought. We just broke the laws of physics as I understand them. And it felt like almost nothing. Megan was laughing softly. That was incredible, she said. We're traveling faster than light. I need to understand how this works. Over the next 4 days, Amy and Megan learned more about the Varine than they could have imagined. Lyra taught them about her people's history, their culture, their biology, their language. Though difficult for human tongues, was beautiful to hear. They met other crew members, including the ship's doctor, who was fascinated by human physiology. The doctor conducted examinations of both women with their permission, marveling at the differences and similarities between their species. The ship's engineer showed them the propulsion system, explaining in terms they could almost understand how the Varine had discovered a way to fold space, creating shortcuts between points. The technology was far beyond Earth science, but the engineer was patient, answering their questions as best he could. Captain Alara joined them for meals which consisted of synthesized food designed to be palatable to humans. The captain was particularly interested in Earth culture, asking about music, art, literature, and philosophy. She shared Varine equivalence recordings of their songs, images of their art. The differences were significant, but there were underlying similarities. Themes of love, loss, hope, and fear that seemed universal. On the 4th day, Lyra took them to the ship's observation deck, a large room with walls that could become transparent, showing the strange dimension they traveled through. It was beautiful streams of energy and colors Amy had never seen, flowing around the ship like currents in a cosmic ocean. Tomorrow we arrive, Lyra said. We will return to normal space near the outer moon of my world. Then approach slowly so you can see Varine Prime in its entirety. It is considered a gift to see a world revealed this way. Amy found herself thinking of Earth, of her cabin, of her simple life. It seemed like a dream, now distant and fading. Would she ever return? Would she want to? The universe had suddenly become so much larger, so much more complex and wonderful. That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind was too full of everything she had learned, everything she had yet to learn. She left her room, careful not to wake Megan, and wandered the corridors of the ship. The Varine crew nodded to her as she passed, now familiar with the human guests. She found herself on the observation deck again, watching the strange energy patterns of faster-than-light travel. Captain Alara was there too. Standing silently before the transparent wall, trouble sleeping, the captain asked. without turning. Too much to think about, Amy replied, joining her. The captain was taller than Lyra, her skin glowing with a slightly different pattern. It was subtle, but Amy had learned to recognize individual Varine by these patterns. I understand, Alara said. When I first traveled to other worlds, I too found it difficult to rest. My mind was too full of new experiences. She turned to Amy, her silver eyes reflecting the energy streams outside. What troubles you most about this journey? Amy considered the question. I worry about Earth, she admitted. About what will happen when the Drovak return. Will my world be ready? Will my people understand what they face? The Varine Council has already dispatched ships to your solar system, Alara said. They will establish a defensive perimeter. Your world will not face the Drovak alone. But you are right to be concerned. The coming days will be difficult for your species. You will need to unite in ways you never have before. Will they? Amy wondered, thinking of the divisions and conflicts that plagued her world. Can we? That is why your presence on Varine Prime is so important. Ilara said you and your friend will be the first official human ambassadors to our world. Your words will help shape how the Council approaches Earth, how much help is offered, how quickly.